Good morning, everyone. Today I shall be discussing the future of nutraceuticals and functional foods in Malaysia. But before I start, I just want to, from a show of hands, how many of you are performing some regulatory function in your company? Could you just raise your hands? Okay, pretty good. And how many of you are in either sales or marketing? All right. And last but not least, how many of you are in R&D? Okay, good. At least I'm in the right place. Now, in my presentation today, I shall be dwelling a little bit in all these three areas from a Malaysian perspective. And I would like to start off with this image. As Confucius says, a picture paints 1,000 words. And for me, this image is very pertinent. If you look at this guy, or rather if you look at this motorcycle, it is on an upward trend. It's rising. And for me, that represents the industry in Malaysia. On the other hand, if you look at the motorcycle rider, he's kind of twisted and upside down. And guess what? That signifies the regulations in the country. So there is this consistent friction between regulations and the regulatory guys with the industry. You know, it seems like, the regulations are trying to pull the industry down and we are struggling to go up. And what I like to do is that out of this complicated mess we find in Malaysia, I would like to paint a simple picture for companies that want to do business in Malaysia and how to be successful, despite or in spite of these regulations. And that's why I like what Albert Einstein says, out of clutter, find simplicity. And I like to do things a simple way. So I shall be touching on some of these just to give you an overview of what's happening in Malaysia. First, I'll paint a regulatory scenario of Malaysia in brief, and then I will take you to what I believe, from my experience, are fundamental strategic considerations if you want to launch a product in Malaysia, either before or just before or while you are launching. And last but not least, how are you going to boost sales the Ninja way? And this is applicable not just in Malaysia, but in any market that you are involved in. So this is especially pertinent for the sales and marketing guys. Now, when I use the word ninja here, I don't mean violence. I mean stealth. All right? So just keep that in mind. So first off, in Malaysia, all supplements have to be registered before you launch it. And the system is very similar to drug registration process. It is equally stringent. All right? Now, it can take anywhere from 40 days to 2 years. I mentioned 40 days because this is what one of the previous directors mentioned to me, that it can take 40 days to register a supplement. Up to today, I'm trying to find out which brand this is. None of the MATSA members have revealed to me it's theirs, so I'm still on the hunt. All right? And by the way, the Malaysian authorities will also approve your brand name. You cannot just have any brand name. They must approve your brand name first. That's a little bit different from pharmaceutical products, where they kind of allow the names because of global branding reasons. Now, food is exempted from registration in Malaysia. But you have to submit your supplement or your product to the same authorities, and that bureau will determine whether your product is considered supplement or doesn't need to be registered. All advertisements in the country have to be approved by the regulatory authorities, whether it's going to be published in print media, radio, television, and even on the internet. Right? So everything has to be approved. Now, recently, the Ministry of Health has been talking about some price control mechanisms for pharmaceutical products. And the pharma associations are up in arms. They have objected to this. They have even sought legal advice on the legality of such an exercise. And they have even got hold of the Malaysian Competition Commission involved. There is such a commission in Malaysia which ensures that all activities in Malaysia are competitive, right? And they have said that such a price control mechanism is kind of illegal. So we shall see whether it takes place. And even if it takes place, we don't know how it's going to be implemented for supplements. Now, next thing is Malaysia is one of the last few remaining countries in the world where we have a dispensing market, meaning doctors don't write prescriptions. They actually dispense their own medication. So what this means is that, in fact, doctors hardly write prescriptions. They kind of monopolize the dispensing market. So patients can't usually go to a pharmacy and fulfill their prescriptions because they get it from the clinic. Now, there's been a lot of discussion in Malaysia about separating dispensing from prescription. Has been going on for the last 30 years, but we believe it is coming close, all right? And I'll be touching back on the significance of this dispensing market in Malaysia from the supplements point of view. The other thing is because there is no insurance in Malaysia, if you go to private sector for treatment, you have to pay out of your own pocket. Now, although some people have insurance, it is actually sponsored by the companies. And that kind of insurance is not outpatient. It is only for surgical and inpatient-based treatment. Last but not least, last year in April, the government implemented GST, a 6% GST on all pharmaceutical products, all supplements, except for about 400 compounds, drug compounds, and about 2 or 3 supplements have been exempted. The rest all have to be imposed a 6% GST. Now, the Malaysian Dietary Supplement Association, we don't just sit on our chairs. We engage the regulators on a frequent basis. And we have only 25 members in Malaysia. But, you know, supplement companies, there are a few hundreds. To put it in perspective, almost every multinational pharmaceutical company is a member of PHAMA, which is the Pharmaceutical Association. A large number of the generic pharmaceutical companies have their own association. The companies in Malaysia which manufacture generics, they have a separate association. So there are 3 for pharmaceuticals. There's only 1 for supplements, and we have only about maybe 10% of representation of supplements. So it is very, very low. And if any one of you here are not a member of MATSA and you want to come to Malaysia, we advise you contact me and we will get you registered at a very affordable rate per year. All right? Now, the reason why I'm requesting for this is because when we have a large number of members, we have greater clout, just like what pharma and the other pharmaceutical companies have. Today, we don't have such a clout yet. But despite that, we are still doing what we can. So we engage regulators in 2 ways. One, when members of MATSA bring in speakers from overseas, what they normally do is conduct CMEs for the pharmacists in the registration bureau. The reason why we do this is to boost their understanding of supplements, because as you know, if any one of you here is a pharmacist, you realize that you don't study much about supplements in school, in pharmacy school. It's very, very small. You learn about pharmacology, drugs, not supplements, not foods, right? So that's why we do this, hoping that with this increased understanding, they will register products a lot faster. So it's actually selfish reasons. Now, the second thing we do is that for 2 years in a row now, we have been conducting what we call a dialogue session with the regulatory authorities. What we do is that the members will bring up issues to lay on the table for us to discuss with the regulatory authorities. So we normally have these dialogue sessions, and sometimes we have been successful in getting them to rethink their position. I'll give you an example. Recently, the Bureau had suggested that, or rather not suggested that, implemented that all probiotics on the label, you have to state what your PFU levels are. And this is supposed to be the PFU levels at the end of shelf life. But on your label, you don't need to state it is end of shelf life. So the MATSA members said, now this is going to be confusing for the consumers. How will they know that this is not end of shelf life rather than ex-factory, right? So what we suggested is that we should put there the amount of PFU at the end of shelf life. Initially they objected, but now they have come back to us stating that, okay, they are going to reconsider this and bring it up at the next policy meeting. So we hope, keep our fingers crossed that they will accept our recommendations. So in a way, it's a win-win for us. A little bit about the Malaysian industry statistics. Now, although we have people like Nielsen and the other market research companies in Malaysia, they don't rely on hard data. It's not invoice data. It is based on surveys. So whatever information that we get, we got to take it with a pinch of salt. And one of the Malaysian banking, large banks, market research unit, stated that in the year 2013, the market was valued at $1.4 billion US. Now, I know compared to a lot of larger countries, this is pittance, right? And it is actually dominated by foreign products. Imported products make up 88%. So Malaysian companies only contribute about 12%, if the data is true. Now, next thing is they have also stated that there is a significant contribution by MLM and networking companies. How big, we really don't know. It's guessed, but we can see that more and more MLM companies are coming into Malaysia with healthcare products. I'll be touching a bit on that in a while as well. Another market research company said that 2015 to 2019, the compounded annual growth rate is about 7%. This is respectable, actually, considering that the pharma companies in Malaysia have not been hitting double-digit growth over the last few years. What are the drivers? Okay, now in spite of all these regulatory hurdles that we have, one of the first things that are driving the market are innovative products. So we have a lot of new products. When I was rep with Roche in the late 80s, Roche reps in the late 80s in Malaysia, we had to handle pharmaceutical products plus supplements. And the supplements we had in those days were Redoxon, Supradyn, and Berocca. Guess what was considered high-tech? Redoxon as an effervescent tablet. In those days was considered high-tech. All right? But today, what do we have? We have compounds like CoQ10, which never existed 15 years ago. We have oral collagen. We have sheep and deer placenta as products as well. We also have supplements for menopause, and this is becoming more acceptable now because of the HRT scare from about 10 years ago. Guess what? We also have supplements for andropause, a concept that never existed in any male person's mind. Okay, omega-3 doesn't just exist as fish oil anymore. We also have krill oil, we have seal oil. Who knows what will come up next? Yeah, combination products, vitamins, minerals. In those days, calcium was just lactate or carbonate. Today, we have calcium in combination with magnesium and zinc. Calcium in combination with vitamin D3. The concept of vitamin D3 wasn't around 10 years ago. It was just vitamin D. Probiotics. When my wife and I were running a pharmacy 10 years ago, it was probiotics had to be stored in a fridge. Today, you store it at room temperature and it's available as capsules, powder in capsules, and even as in liquid form. And besides this innovation, we also have new clinical data. There is data coming out about vitamin D in weight loss. We have probiotics in weight management as well as for asthmatics in kids as well. So all of these are actually driving the market in Malaysia, one of the main drivers. Now, the other drivers are awareness. Each one of the supplement companies in Malaysia regularly do awareness of patients. In Malaysia, the major newspapers every week have pull-outs on supplements. And sometimes it's complementary medicine as well. So it's every week. So every week you'll have some kind of articles going out educating the public about supplements, foods, and so on. And also being an Asian culture, I think that plays a role as well, because a lot of Asians tend to shy away from pharmacological treatment and accept supplements and nutraceuticals. I mentioned earlier that in Malaysia, private sector treatment is out of your own pocket. And as you know, pharmacological treatment prices have been increasing. Malaysia has not been exempted, and we don't even have insurance. So what this means is that a lot of patients are becoming more aware that when you rely or you take supplements and maintain your health, then you don't, or you avoid diseases, and therefore you don't need to rely on pharmacological treatment. Your price is lower, considering that there's no insurance. Now, insurance may be coming, we don't know, but pretty soon. I mentioned earlier that doctors monopolize dispensing in Malaysia, and therefore, patients don't go to pharmacies to fill their prescriptions. And what do pharmacies do? Most pharmacies, to supplement their income, and when I use the word supplement, no pun intended, to supplement the income, they tend to focus on supplements. Okay, so they tend to push that. So if somebody comes in, let's say with a heart disease on statin, then they will push CoQ10, for example. Okay, so these are some of the ways pharmacies do cross-selling and upselling. Next thing is C2C. I mentioned to you that I'll be bringing up this MLM and networking companies. C2C here means consumer to consumer. That's basically how the MLM and networking markets work. It is one consumer promoting and recommending to another. Very powerful. Yeah? Much more powerful than advertising. I'll move on quickly into discussing about what companies ought to consider before they launch or when they launch supplements and nutraceuticals. Now, supplement companies unfortunately don't have deep pockets like pharma companies, right? And I spent 22 years in pharmaceuticals, and I think all of us know that no pharma company would ever launch more than one product every 5 years in a specific therapeutic area. But I have observed that quite a number of supplement companies tend to launch 1, 2, 3 or more supplements in 1 year. Now, because we don't have large bank accounts, what that means is that some of your products are eventually going to become orphans. You won't have enough funds to support them. So the first thing, therefore, I want to mention here is about focus. Focus on a product, same way the pharmaceutical companies are doing. Because you don't have unlimited time, you don't have unlimited money, you don't have unlimited people. You need people to move these products as well. So we got to follow sometimes the pharmaceutical method of marketing as well. That's why I wanted to find out who are the marketing people here. Next thing is, I've also noticed that when it comes to a lot of supplement products, there is basically very insignificant difference among them. So this is one area that we have to really look into. We have to differentiate one product against a competitor. Otherwise, we're going to be depending on a price war, right? I mentioned just now about probiotics. Today, we have probiotics in liquid form, which is a totally separate indication, if you say so, which is meant for kids. So those are the kinds of differentiation we need to look into. What about services? And by services, an example I can give is loyalty programs. A lot of retail pharmacies in Malaysia, and also in Singapore, they actually have loyalty programs of their own to make sure that their customers stick with them. They give points which they can redeem for other products. I know one supplement company in Malaysia which is actually doing this, right? Now, if it didn't work, these companies wouldn't be having loyalty programs. So this is something for supplement companies to consider as well. I'll talk about how are we going to do this since you don't really deal with end users in a few slides away. Next thing, do you remove risk for your patients? I know one MLM company that actually allows their consumers to return the product if it has not been opened, up to 1 year. In the US, there are many supplement companies that will allow a patient to return the product, even an empty bottle, if the product hasn't worked, if it hasn't removed their wrinkles, if it hasn't helped them lose weight and so on. Okay, so that's an example. You don't have to go to that drastic means, but you may have to consider these kind of things in order for you to avoid a price war. Now I'll go into how are you going to boost sales the ninja way. Once again, ninja means stealth, okay, which means under the radar, right? Now, these are techniques that you can use considering that the regulators are always keeping an eye on us. They're clamping down on all kinds of promotional methods. Now, if you use this, there is a way that you can avoid that. This is an 8-step system, and it uses free tools. Okay, these free tools and this 8-step system will help you to get new customers. It will help you to keep your current customers, and even get your current customers to keep coming back and buying your product, and maybe buying at higher levels, all right? And all of this, I can tell you, is either free or very, very low cost and doesn't cost anywhere near what you pay for advertising in newspapers, on radio or television. First thing is a website. Note that the first thing I said is a website, not a Facebook page, okay? There are many companies I notice have got a Facebook page, but not a website. Let me give you an analogy. A Facebook page is like having a PO box, whereas having a website is having an address. Now, most of us would hesitate to deal with a company which only has a PO box, right? We want to work with companies that have a real address, that have a real phone number, a real email address, and so on. So that's what a website does. It is similar to a real address, okay? And it's very simple, creating a website. It is not rocket science. All you need to do, the essential pages are the home page, the About Us page. You can have a page with a brief write-up of your products, maybe even your services. And also, blogs and articles page are essential. The rest are optional. If you want to have a page for your press releases, fine, for events that you conduct, or even videos. So that's number one. Number two is testimonials page, right? Although this is a page or website, I put it separately because this is extremely important. When consumers see real testimonials from real people, they believe the efficacy of your products, right? And they tend to use it. So this is a separate page by itself. And testimonials can exist as either text or videos. Number 3, this is valuable real estate. Your website is actually valuable real estate for you to collect information of people who visit your website. And the easiest way to do it is by giving something of value in return for their email address. Once you have their email address, you can promote them by sending them emails on a consistent basis. This can be information about your products, your services, and even promotional. If you're having a sale, these are the ways that you can influence them. And therefore, you build a relationship. Next is a Google Plus business page. A lot of people neglect this. Now, when you set up a Google Plus business page, you actually send your details to Google. They will set up a page for you. And what happens is when somebody looks for your company on Google, on the right-hand side, if you notice, will be all the results. On the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you will find either the image of your company, a logo, or some product image, and underneath that would be your company name, your address, your operating hours, and right at the bottom are Google reviews. Reviews from real people. And what Google does is when they see these kind of things, they will boost up your ranking. All right, so this is free, by the way. Google doesn't charge you anything for this. Number 5, it's only at step number 5 do I say set up your social media pages. Okay, if you already have a Facebook page, fine, go and do the first 4 and come back here. All right. Now, besides the Facebook page, set up your Twitter page and your Pinterest page. Now, Pinterest is a very image or pictorial-based site where you actually can place images of your products and you can have good write-ups. It is basically women who follow Pinterest. And if women are your target market, which should be because in healthcare, women are the drivers, so you should be on Pinterest. Now, if you are targeting a younger crowd, 30 and below, then you may want to have Instagram and Snapchat. Right? One more thing I just wanted to also highlight here. Now, since January this year, Facebook has allowed live streaming. How many of you are familiar with live streaming? Anyone? Okay, right. So live streaming allows you to actually communicate with your followers. And therefore, you can conduct webinars, you can share whatever information that you want at the snap of a finger, anytime. All right? And nobody can control this. Twitter has also been doing this. If you know, Twitter owns Periscope now, and Periscope is also a live streaming application. And from a few weeks ago, Twitter has allowed you to live stream from the Twitter application itself, where you click and you are live on Periscope. Number 6, YouTube is also a social media site, but I have put it separately because YouTube is also a search engine, not just Google. Google owns YouTube, by the way. Google is the world's #1 search engine, followed by YouTube. Then comes Yahoo and Bing, in that order. So a lot of people go onto YouTube searching for videos, information which is video related. So it's a brilliant opportunity for you to showcase your products, showcase your services, what your company does on video, right? And what else can you do? You can put up video testimonials there as well. And by this fall, YouTube will also allow live streaming. So you'll have now 3 platforms for live streaming: Facebook, Twitter/Periscope, and YouTube. Okay, and all of this is free. You don't need to gather people into a room like this. There's no more traffic jams. Okay, you don't have to worry about time zone, kind of, more or less, because all of these are recorded and kept there for posterity. Number 7. Now, phase 1 to 6 is actually a setup phase. 7 is when you actually collect testimonials and publish them, either as text or video. If it is text, you publish it on your testimonials page. If it is video, you publish on YouTube, and make sure you embed it on your website as well. Now, by now you're probably asking me, how am I supposed to get testimonials when I don't deal with consumers? Well, this is where you have to work with your retail pharmacies and so on. Either have a competition, give vouchers out, or whatever. But this is the way for you to collect information and start promoting to them. Number 8, I mentioned to you that the articles page should also be an essential page. Make sure you publish articles every fortnight. That is optimal. At the most, once a month, never more than that. If your interval is longer than that, then Google will not recognize you or will not give you the boost that you require. Each time you write an article, make sure you also have a video. Videos don't have to be CNN quality. Okay, it can be a 30-second video, it can be text-based, it can be cartoon-based, whatever. But basically, the video has to be put on YouTube, and make sure you embed it at the bottom of your articles. Now, what should you write or create videos about? It's very easy. There are tools out there which will tell you what consumers are looking for in your country. What products are they looking for? So base your articles and videos on those keywords, and you will see that eventually your ranking starts increasing. Okay? Now let me tell you, very few supplement companies are doing this. So if you guys start now, you have got a head start over those guys. But just beware. Are there any American supplement companies here besides Isagenix? Okay, good. You'll find that most of the American companies are doing this on a consistent basis. Some of the MATSA members are doing some, but not all, right? Now, what we have been talking about the last few minutes is actually about reputation marketing. Those 8 steps are actually building up your reputation. Building up a reputation to get a 5-star rating. Now, in Google's terminology, they only use 5 stars. Huh? So if you have a 5-star rating, which no company has got, by the way, yet, so you can be the first. Most companies, or many companies, have 4.7, 4.5. What that means is that you are an extremely reputable company, and this is based on reviews that customers give you. Those reviews that are at the bottom of your Google Plus page. All right? So build your reputation, and therefore you will also see that new customers start flowing in free of charge. Because this is word of mouth, but with steroids, because it's online. Okay, not traditional where, people may forget to talk about a good product. So, I have to answer this question. What is the future of nutraceuticals and functional foods in Malaysia? It's bright. In conclusion, I can say it is very bright if companies were to do all of these things. Okay? And I would like to leave with this thought by Alan Kay. The best way to create the future is to invent it. So you create your own future, and this is where marketing, R&D, and regulatory work hand in hand. And when you do this, it doesn't matter, you are free from the fickleness of the regulatory bodies. Okay? And last but not least, on behalf of MATSA, I would like to, as one of the endorsers of this conference, I would like to wish you a very fruitful and productive 2-day event. Thank you.